future of attribution. The thing is, if you talk about the future in the current conditions, it's always really a 50-50. So I thought, okay, should I talk about the new trends that we see emerging? Should it be around the data clean rooms, the incremental, the UA incrementality for retargeting? But then I always think, if I go this way, in 1 year from now, you meet me, you say, Matti, come here. You told us last year that that's going to be the future. We just spent some money on it, it's not working. So instead of that, I'm going to focus on the trend that we see right now with our beloved clients when it comes to the attributing the owned media. And very briefly, yeah, I'm a senior account executive in AppsFlyer. I've been working both on the client side, N26, then spent 4 years at Google for gaming, and in general have seen this from both very small startup to a quite big organization when it comes to the app marketing. Currently with AppsFlyer helping the marketers in Central Europe and UK. And then I want to start from the very basic, stating the obvious, that in the last 2 years, I think we've all seen a massive change, not only when it comes to our professional life and marketing per se, but also our current life. Why I'm saying that is because, kind of going back to the basics, in the end, marketing is about creating those very useful connections in between you and the brands. And that's also because our life changed, and of course, we can talk about the pandemic, we can talk about the looming recession and the things that are remote work. All those things affected the way that we interact with the brands, apps, and the whole holistic ecosystem. And I think we can kind of summarize it in the 3 main trends. So first and foremost, mobile became the touch point of choice, and much more than just the first-hand screen, it literally became the hub how we navigate our life. It's very often the first thing that we do in the morning, we reach out to our mobile phone, and the last thing that we do before we go to sleep. And I think it also proves that you are in the very right place right now, being in the App Promotion Summit, when you look at this industry that has been growing consecutively year over year, and then had this massive uplift during the COVID year, and only now when you see it's down 5% on the retention, everyone starts like panicking if it's the right place. It definitely is. To add to that, actually 70% of the ad spend budgets are connected to mobile. So if you think about it, it grew over the last 5 years to 70%. So that's definitely still one of the most important trends in omnichannel. And this is actually for the study that we did with Adobe. And I want to, once again, maybe it's kind of obvious, or it's the knowledge that we feel that we have, but the data stands behind it as well. The thing is that the customer experience is the #1 differentiator, and 86% of buyers are willing to actually pay more for the great customer experience. That being said, they want you to be really useful and accessible at any given point in time. And that's what we're going to talk about in this presentation. And last, we can't really skip that one, obviously, thanks to platforms, regulators, and consumers. Privacy became the top priority for the customers. Any engagement that we do has to be intent-based. Everything else, like any other information identifier we try to collect, might seem like actually an invasion and kind of crossing the border and crossing the line when it comes to the measurement attribution. Now, what's the data behind it? We see that actually less than half of the whole user base is approving the ATT. It's still a way better result than we expected when the ATT was introduced. But that being said, the privacy-centric attribution as well as the measurement of your holistic marketing efforts is a top priority for your consumers and should be for you as well. Now, almost finished with the basics, just the 2 fundamental strategies. And I think historically, as an MMPs, we were very much focused on the first one, on the paid media, what we can achieve with that. Obviously, the recent changes have made quite a shift into what are the top networks that you're using. Probably you could see it as well in terms of where your budgets are allocated. And then we had this whole separate part, which is the owned media. And for a long time, it was like this. Okay, we have the UA team that's going to take care of basically the acquisition, and then it's going to move on and it's going to stay with the CRM team trying to engage those users. What we would like to propose right now is to actually change this mindset based also on the first-party data, and the future of attribution is actually going to be to attribute everything when it comes to the whole channel. So you don't really see this path of basically saying, oh, I know, there's a Facebook campaign on Wednesday, we started for the install campaign, and then a push notification on Saturday, and you see it in those two silos, right? And then you see, okay, well, this campaign actually works well purely because there was another touch point that wasn't measured. To give you a couple of examples, I know we all work in a different verticals. Let's kind of put it together and let's holistically think we have a shopping app to run. And what are the couple of strategies on our own media, how we can improve the engagement, which, by the way, retention took the heaviest hit in the last year looking at the benchmark data. And that's why it's so relevant to actually continue, re-engage, and retain the users. So obviously, web to app, one of the winners, I would say, of 2021, one of the biggest increase in terms of the click-to-install ratio we're going to talk about in a second. We have emails to app, text to app, offline to app, which also growing pretty massively, social to app, and referral to app, not to mention the connected TV, which also is a new trend that we're seeing. And basically, is an overview of probably, if you think about your companies, it's split between the user acquisition teams as well as the CRM teams. And we see that the companies that are actually succeeding in that are the ones that are merging those two views into one single source of truth. And now we're actually going to speak about specific examples about why it makes sense. Because when you look at the different media networks and you see the conversion rates, they can vary. It became increasingly hard in the last years to compete for the inventory, for the ad impressions, against really big companies that has those open budgets and getting there. But if you look at the click-to-install conversion rates, they really vary from 41% in QR to app in shopping up to 19% to referral to app in finance. Those are very strong indicators that could be the owned media that you can actually utilize and measure for your advantage, rather than going head-to-head against, I don't know, the biggest e-commerce players in the market. Now, you might say, okay, Matti, that's really cool. We don't really care about the installs that much. We want to have a share of paying users. We want to have subscribing users. And that's exactly what's also important to mention here. When you look at the ideas to drive share, look at the App Store and Play Store. The competition there is fierce. I think it was more than, what was it, like 60,000 apps? I think from Data AI presentation, to actually engage the users and convert the user into the paying one, you do need to be present, and that's coming back to the point one, that the marketing is changing. You need to be present wherever the user wants you to be present. And that's where we talk about the engagement and being there on the web to app, deep linking, and retargeting. And those are also very strong indicators that actually, by being useful, having the strong intent, and being present at this moment, you can win and convert those users into a paying audience. Good example. So basically, we had, if you look about the omni-channel experience and having the contextual signals, you could see that basically a use of QR codes now in app stores. There's quite a lot of our clients, especially in the Central Europe area, that has been using it in terms of like not necessarily driving sales, but adding the added value of the information that you want to see in your specific products. Again, this is all that you can also measure in terms of the engagement and decide which products to push. Cross-promotion, especially a big topic in gaming in the last year, the year of merger and acquisition. I think by far the historic numbers of merger and acquisitions, and you might ask yourself, why? Those gaming studios were doing pretty well on their own. The thing is, with all the changes around ATT, there's this notion of content fortresses, right? So you have a closed fortress of your content that you can cross-promote between the games, but also the apps. And that's exactly what's happening right here. So by having a cross-promotion and measuring the cross-lifetime value of your user, you can potentially, for a very cheap cost, get, first of all, first-party data across your, using, I don't know, IDFA, for example, in the Apple Store, and understand how this user moves across the certain apps. So cross-promotion, very interesting concept. For a long time, it wasn't really useful in our industry saying, how do you measure that? But with the content fortresses, with the common identifiers and the first-party data, that's exactly what we're seeing right now as the future of the measurement. Organic user acquisition, another thing that was always nice to have. It's happened organically. We don't need to really push that. Well, right now, especially in the times when we have to be quite careful with our budgets, with running the efficiency, with what we're trying to achieve, organic user acquisition could be a great way to actually, again, have this intent, have this community around you. For example, we know that actually the referrals from friends and family are working 4 times as good as any ad that you might see. Are you using that in your app? Are you making use of the fact that your user loves your service and actually can refer it and increase the share of paying users? Because obviously we trust our friends, we trust our family. If someone recommends us to us, this is another really good example of what's going to be important in the measurement. Now, migration to app, that's coming back to the point 1, that we live in a mobile-first world, that mobile really became the first screen that we turn to. Then, of course, it also attracts the really big players saying, hey, let's have an app right now. And that's what we see as well. If you have, for example, a web that has a certain number of active daily users and you want to convert them into the app, no better way than do it for your own media to actually understand basically to understand where the post-install events lead to. And again, this is utilizing your first-party data. Your website is your own hub, so you definitely should also think about the migration to apps. We have an example here on the finance side. And now we must say, okay, we cannot do it all, but why he's talking about the attribution? Why it's important? And I heard this example, I think, a week ago. It's probably some of you, I definitely have a Fitbit, and the idea is I want to keep myself healthy, right? So I'm trying to make those 10,000 steps a day. And then if you ask me why I'm doing it, is to keep myself honest, right? Even if maybe I did it, maybe I don't. Well, here's the data. I didn't. I need to go up and walk for another half an hour. And that's exactly what the attribution and measurement that we're trying to discuss here is offering you, is to keep yourself honest around those media channels that you're utilizing, both on the paid side as well on your own media. Because without it, especially in the times when we discuss about the potential recession, the potential troubles on the market, being honest to you and your company, I think, when it comes to the performance, is going to be the key, because the market won't grow as much organically as it used to in the last years. That's why it's really now time to be efficient and smart and honest when it comes to your marketing mix. 2 more examples that I think are pretty relevant here. So we had the Photocy. That's actually one of our clients we're very proud of, and then basically to look what kind of the increase you can achieve by measuring those results. That was a 100% increase in user acquisition and 67% uplift in the A/B testing when it comes to the actually share of paying users. And again, Photocy is a client that you can both use their services through the app and websites. By combining those two, those are the results you can achieve. I really like this one because a lot of times when I'm discussing the own media, they often hear, yeah, it's nice, Matti, but you can't scale with that. It's a couple of % of our marketing mix. Not sure if any of you here watched Super Bowl last time, or at least the ads around it. There was quite a peculiar ad with just a QR code. moving through the screen. If not, I highly recommend doing that. They basically paid quite a lot of money for 15 seconds of a QR code moving to the screen. What was the result? 20 million downloads in a minute, all through the own media. And then I think the being creative here and basically driving this curiosity, that's something that you can still achieve. There was, of course, they paid for the ad in the TV, but still 20 million downloads in a minute. This is actually a huge, huge achievement. And the last trend I want to talk about when it comes to the future of attribution, connected TV, what we see right now, especially in the States, coming more and more into Europe, could be Roku, could be Samsung, could be Amazon Fire TV. This is where we literally see a big uplift. It's actually a double-digit uplift year over year. So that could be another very interesting pocket of growth to you. For quickly describing how it works, let's imagine you're sitting there, you're watching the House of Dragon, there's an ad coming up, and then we actually, how we attribute that, the connected TV sends the impressions back to AppsFlyer servers. If you would download the app at this time, we know we can attribute it and measure it with the connected TV ad. I think that's going to be another really big pocket of growth also in Europe. So that's something to look into. We see more and more providers actually being integrated there. Lastly, re-engagement. Again, I want to once again kind of focus on the point that says retention is dropping. If you want, do something actively to keep those users. There's enough competition out there to go. So having the good measurement around the re-engagement retention is also a key in keeping the user. So lastly, once again, to talk about the future of attribution, I would love to have this switch in a mindset saying, well, attribution is a UA, it's going to be a new user, and then we're going to do with this user something. Right now, user acquisition and the CRM efforts, it all fits into the one. And basically, it's kind of thinking from the perspective of your business goals as a KPIs, rather than going into separate siloed divisions. And I think that's exactly what you need to have, a very strong measurement around those efforts to then prove the results, even when let's say, the regular ways that was working for the last 2-3 years is not working as efficiently as it should. If you would be interested in getting more of those use cases, here's the QR code. We're very happy as well to discuss it with you on our booth on the first floor. We have a great team here. And I think this is a topic that really can't be neglected, especially when the market is not growing organically, but rather we need to be smart into what measurement we can do. So thank you very much.